Hi, I'm Haley, and there's something urgent I need to tell you about my family. A secret so dark, so carefully hidden that if you don't know it, it could be too late. I never imagined I'd be the one to uncover it, yet here I am, compelled to share it with anyone who will listen. It all started when I was 13, the age when curiosity feels like both a blessing and a curse. That summer, I discovered an old, dust covered journal tucked away in the far corner of our attic. Its cover was cracked and worn, the kind of wear that spoke of decades of secrecy. Flipping through the pages, I realized it belonged to my mother, but it wasn't the usual diary of daily trivialities. No. This journal contained stories that were both haunting and cryptic, full of cryptic notes, strange symbols, and hints of events I had never been told about. It felt like a map leading straight into the hidden heart of our family. I remember the first entry I read. It described a disappearance, a night cloaked in mystery, where a family member vanished without a trace. My heart raced as I read the chilling words. They were taken, and no one can know why. Who? Why? And why was I only now finding out about this? Every page seemed to whisper warnings, yet I couldn't look away. The thrill of discovery tangled with a growing fear, and I knew my life was about to change. Night after night, I returned to the attic, uncovering more pieces of the puzzle. Old photographs, letters, and strange trinkets fell into my hands, each holding a story no one had ever shared. Some letters were addressed to my mother from a mysterious correspondent, hinting at things hidden from the world, warning of dangers that lurked just out of sight. I could feel the weight of the secrets pressing down on me, urging me to uncover more. One evening, the wind rattled our windows violently, and the house seemed to groan under its own history. I grabbed a flashlight and descended into the old basement, the air thick with dust and decay. The wooden steps creaked under my weight as if the house itself was warning me to stop. But I couldn't. I had to see it through. At the far end of the basement, hidden behind stacks of forgotten boxes, I found a locked chest. My hands trembled as I lifted the rusty latch, revealing objects that made my blood run cold. Photographs of people I didn't know, maps marked with strange symbols, and letters hinting at a truth the family had buried long ago. I felt a shiver, realizing that the journal wasn't just a record, it was a warning, and I was the only one who could follow it. That night, I promised myself I would get to the bottom of it. I didn't know what dangers awaited, what truths I would uncover, or how deeply my family's past was entwined with events I could hardly comprehend. But I knew one thing. Everyone needed to know this secret before it was too late. I didn't just stumble upon a mystery. I became part of it. And the journey to uncover the truth had only just begun. The next morning, my mind was racing with questions I couldn't ignore. The journal had led me to one undeniable truth. My family had hidden something dangerous. I packed the photographs, letters, and maps into a small bag and decided I had to investigate further, even if it meant facing what had been concealed for generations. My first stop was the old library downtown. The librarian, Mrs. Cranston, eyed me suspiciously as I approached the restricted section. I hesitated, then whispered, "I'm looking for anything about the Whitmore family, particularly events from the 1960s. She gave me a long, measured look before slowly nodding and guiding me toward a hidden door behind the shelves. The air inside smelled of aged paper and forgotten history. Hours passed as I sifted through yellowed files, each page revealing fragments of the past. Newspaper clippings described mysterious disappearances, unexplainable accidents, and strange warnings sent to my grandparents. One letter in particular caught my eye. It was addressed to my mother as a child, warning, "Do not trust what you see. The truth lies beneath." I felt a chill. Beneath what? And why was this warning kept from me all these years? Later that day, I returned home, my heart pounding. I spread everything across the living room floor and tried to connect the dots. Patterns emerged, dates, names, and locations that recurred across decades.
It was as if the family secret wasn't a single event, but a chain of events meticulously hidden, yet impossible to completely erase. The weight of generations pressing down on me made the room feel smaller, tighter, suffocating. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying memories of family gatherings, noticing things I had ignored before. The whispered conversations, the fleeting looks of worry. The rooms always kept locked. It was like seeing the past in slow motion, realizing now that every clue had been there, quietly waiting for someone like me to notice. Determined, I decided to confront my mother. I needed answers, even if they hurt. She looked startled when I brought out the journal and the letters, her hands trembling. Her voice shook as she said, "Hailey, you're too young to understand, but you deserve to know the truth." That night, she began to recount stories that had been buried for decades. Stories of betrayal, of choices that haunted our family, and of dangers that had followed us across generations. By the end of our conversation, I realized that uncovering the secret wasn't just about curiosity. It was about survival. The journal, the letters, the hidden archives, they were all pieces of a puzzle that had to be solved. And I, Hailey Whitmore, was the one who had to follow the trail, piece by piece, to protect everyone I loved. The deeper I dug, the more I understood. This was bigger than I could have imagined. And as I prepared for the next step, I knew the real journey was just beginning. The family secret wasn't waiting for me. It was hunting me. And I had no choice but to follow its path to the very end.
The next day, armed with the journal and a handful of letters, I decided to follow the first clue outside our home. It led me to the old Whitmore estate, a decaying mansion that had been abandoned for decades. Windows were shattered, ivy crawling up the walls, and the air smelled of damped wood and forgotten memories. My heart pounded as I approached, each step echoing like a drumbeat in the eerie silence. Inside, dust particles danced in the sunlight streaming through broken windows. I navigated through hallways that creaked under my weight, stopping at a large portrait of my great-grandparents. Something felt off. The eyes in the painting seemed almost alive, staring, judging. Behind the frame, I found a hidden latch. My hands shook as I pulled it, revealing a narrow passageway leading downward into darkness. Flashlight in hand, I descended the stairs, each step threatening to give way beneath me. The basement was enormous, filled with relics of the past, old furniture, crates stamped with dates, and stacks of newspapers chronicling family scandals and disappearances. I found a metal box marked with my initials. Inside were photographs, letters, and a small, intricately carved key. This was it, the next piece of the puzzle. As I examined the documents, a sudden sound made me freeze. Footsteps? Or was it just the wind? My heart raced. I reminded myself to stay calm, but every instinct screamed, danger. The journal's warnings echoed in my mind. Trust no one. Follow the path carefully. I had to proceed, but cautiously. Hours passed as I pieced together the timeline of events hidden in these documents. The letters revealed a network of relatives who had kept the secret alive, some trying to expose it, others trying to bury it forever. It was a tangled web, and I was the one tasked with unraveling it. Each clue led me deeper, both into the estate and into the family's shadowed past. Suddenly, a draft of cold air brushed my neck. I spun around, shining the flashlight, but the room appeared empty. Then, a soft whisper, so faint I could barely hear it, reached my ears. "Hailey, follow the light. Find the truth." My pulse quickened. Was it my imagination, or was someone or something guiding me? The urgency pressed on me. The secret wanted to be discovered, and I had to answer the call. I found a hidden drawer in a centuries-old cabinet, containing a faded map with markings that matched those in the journal. One location was circled repeatedly, a place deep in the forest behind the estate. My stomach tightened. I knew the next step would take me into real danger, yet I couldn't stop. The secret was close, closer than ever, and I had to see it through.
The forest was alive with shadows as I followed the faded map from the estate. Each step crunched against fallen leaves, and every rustle of branches made my heart jump. The markings on the map led me to a clearing, where an ancient oak tree stood like a sentinel, its massive roots twisting into the earth like veins guarding secrets buried long ago. Hidden among the roots, I discovered a small iron-bound chest, its surface scarred by time. My hands shook as I inserted the key from the estate into the lock. With a click, it opened, revealing documents, photographs, and an object wrapped in cloth. Carefully, I unwrapped it to find a locket, engraved with symbols matching those in the journal. I could feel the weight of generations pressing down on me. This locket held answers, but also questions I wasn't ready for. As I examined the contents, the wind shifted, carrying whispers through the trees. "Hailey, the truth is closer than you think." My pulse raced. Was someone following me, or was it the echoes of my family's past guiding me? The urgency of the secret propelled me forward, deeper into the forest, where the journal indicated the final revelation awaited. Night fell, and the shadows grew longer. The forest was no longer just a backdrop. It felt alive, aware, almost protective. I came to a clearing where moonlight illuminated an old stone well. The journal had mentioned it, describing events that had happened here decades ago. I leaned over and peered into its darkness. Something glimmered at the bottom, a small metallic box that seemed to call my name. Using a rope from my bag, I carefully lowered myself into the well. The cold stone pressed against my back as I reached the bottom and grasped the box. Opening it, I found letters that revealed the full extent of the family's secret. Truths about our lineage, decisions made in desperation, and warnings meant to protect future generations. The revelations were staggering. I realized that the choices of our ancestors had shaped the lives of everyone in the family in ways I had never imagined. I sat there in the darkness, absorbing the weight of the truth. Fear mingled with awe as I understood that I now carried the responsibility of this secret. I had uncovered what generations had tried to hide, and it was up to me to ensure that the knowledge was used wisely. The journal, the locket, the well, they were all pieces of a puzzle that had finally come together. But with understanding came danger. The secret had enemies, forces determined to keep it buried. Climbing out of the well, I felt a strange mix of exhaustion and resolve. The forest no longer seemed threatening. It had become a place of revelation. I knew that the final step awaited back at home, where confronting the remaining truths and family members would bring the story full circle. I had followed the trail, uncovered the clues, and now I had to face the ultimate truth.
Returning home, I felt the weight of the secret pressing down on me. Every step through the familiar halls of our house felt different, like I was seeing them for the first time. The journal, the locket, the letters, and the box from the well, they all demanded attention, demanded to be understood fully. I gathered my family in the living room, the very place where so many secrets had quietly festered for decades. My mother's eyes were wide with apprehension. My father looked tense, as if sensing what was coming. Taking a deep breath, I began to recount everything: the journal, the estate, the letters, the locket, and the revelations from the well. I emphasized each part with care, making sure the weight of the mystery was felt. As I spoke, expressions shifted across their faces: shock, disbelief, guilt, and finally, understanding. The secret had been kept to protect us, but the cost had been generations of fear and uncertainty. Now, everything was out in the open. The family had to confront it together. It was terrifying, yet liberating. The letters and photographs provided context, showing decisions made under extreme circumstances, sacrifices that had gone unnoticed, and warnings that had been left for future generations. My family listened intently as I narrated the consequences of past actions, connecting the dots of disappearances, hidden clues, and cryptic warnings that had haunted our lineage. When I finished, silence filled the room. Then my mother spoke, her voice trembling but firm. "Hailey, you've done what no one else could. You've uncovered the truth and given us the chance to heal."
Tears welled in my eyes as I realized that the secret, once a source of fear, was now a bridge toward understanding, unity, and perhaps even redemption. I had walked a path of shadows, uncovered the hidden truths, and now had the chance to illuminate our family's history for the generations to come. Everyone should know this family secret before it's too late. And now I have shared it, not just for myself, but for all of us, so that the past no longer controls the future and the truth can finally guide us toward the light.